How dangerous is it to be a border patrolman and have the cartel show up with children to be trafficked or backpacks full of drugs? Are they murdered? I mean...
There's memorials in San Diego from Border Patrol agents who have been killed. These cameras that we've set up, we've had 3 of them stolen by cartel members now. One had a rifle and one had a pistol. One of them walked probably over 100 yards into the United States, armed. I don't know what other country you could do that in and not get shot. There's land out by the border near my house, and I've been looking at this parcel of land forever, trying to figure out, it just something wasn't right, didn't make sense. And I'm just trying to figure out what's going on at the border by my house. Right? And I stumble upon all this stuff. It's right where one of the spots where the border fence stops. It's owned by...
You just were with Tom Homan, which, you know, I saw him speak at AmFest, and he's great. He's very direct, very simple, straightforward. I think he said he needs to learn how to really retire because he keeps coming out of retirement for Trump. So
he's very straightforward, and he's talking about everything that he wants to implement immediately. I hope that it all goes that well. I think there's going to be lots of lawsuits and lots of things that are going to hold stuff up.
Why lawsuits?
So
against him or
against the things that he's trying to do? Oh. So I have a gun store in California. Yes.
Good for you.
So
it's the most right-leaning state in the election, so they made the most progress, so you might get some buyers. Change.
So what happens in California a lot is they will just enact these crazy laws that they know are unconstitutional and they know are not going to hold up, but it takes the court years to overturn it. So we still have to play these dumb games with these laws until the court overturns it. I have a feeling that's the playbook for we're gonna see happen in the future here with immigration. They'll come out and try and do things, and then they'll just get sued into oblivion and have to fight stuff. And left-leaning courts are going to hold things up and say, no, you can't. Just deportation, for example. I'm just making this up, but no, you can't deport anybody until we figure this out. We only have 4 years.
Yeah. Just stall it with systems.
Yes. Bureaucracy.
Yeah. Country's been good at that. I mean, but can't there be presidential orders and override buttons?
I think so, but you have to have people that are going to follow your instructions. We've had 4 years
of rogue teams.
Or teams that do the right thing, right?
Right, but like rogue meaning like just go get things done. I mean, I feel like I've run into people over time where they do, special detail security now versus in the past. They were in the military, but they know how to protect, they know how to check for safety, and they know how to ultimately just like take care of someone as opposed to going through all the protocols that it takes to do things. So is that even possible to like outsource the work that needs to be done to secure the border?
We hope so, because that's what we're doing now.
Right.
We're hoping that, so we have all these NGOs, non-government organizations that are basically helping this invasion of people coming into our country. So if we can pay, if we can fund NGOs, bad NGOs, they're bad in my book, why can't we fund good ones like mine? We're already doing this stuff. We could advise, we could help, we could do a million different things.
Yeah, well, the government is the number one. They have more employees that they hire than any other company in the country, but also there's no reason why we couldn't outsource, especially if Elon and Vivek are going to come in and cut $2 trillion from the budget. It might be time to start shopping around and getting people to, do the work that's outside of the system, but also just someone who's going to get it done.
Yes.
Right? So let's just back up and go, what happened between Trump being in office and then the Biden administration, because I went to so many rallies that one of his favorite charts was, he's like, throw my favorite chart up, throw my favorite chart up. And it's how, secure the border was and how everything was going great. And then everything sort of fell apart with the Biden administration. So what actually happened to create the scenario that we're in that's just terrible on so many levels?
So there's two main things. One of them was the remain in Mexico policy was no longer. So what that did was people that were coming here to claim asylum, they would have to stay in Mexico. And nobody wanted to do that. So they weren't coming here to claim asylum unless they really, really needed it. So that policy went away. Currently, it's come to the United States, we'll process you, and these NGOs will give you a bunch of free stuff and maybe a place to live. Then we will, once we process you and get your name, and whether it's the correct name or the fake name, we don't know. Do they have to
actually provide paperwork, passport, identification?
So, we
anything?
have a lot of their passports. So when they come here, a lot of them will come with nothing. I don't have a passport. I don't have an ID. I've got nothing. I'm John Smith today.
Wellness is a journey, and no one has to do it alone. Being a part of the AG1 community inspires and motivates me to stay on track because it's so quick and easy. AG1 is a research-backed daily health drink that combines a multivitamin, probiotic, and blend of superfoods into one scoop. Comprehensive nutrition supplement that provides nutrients to support body, brain, and gut health. You'd be hard-pressed to find a more comprehensive powder supplement on the market. It's never too late to create a new, healthy habit for 2025. So try AG1 for yourself. It's something I've actually been able to stay very consistent with, and that's why I've been partnering with AG1 for so long. And AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get a welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs with your first box. So make sure you check out drinkag1.com/prettyintense to get the offer. That's drinkag1.com/prettyintense to start your new year on a healthier note.
So we have no idea who most of these people
And we allow that, and then the country's allowed that.
Yes.
So the asylum has been, I'm curious, number one, what deems someone allowed to have asylum, which is just someone that's able to have citizenship without, like right away, just be able to become a U.S. citizen. Why would they be able to have that? What would be the requirements for that we would allow? And then why then do we have asylum cities and sanctuary cities and states? It's just wild to me.
It's insane. So let's back up. So in order to claim asylum here, you have to be able to explain that your life was in danger, your family's life was in danger, wherever you're coming from. So what's funny is that if you are from Mexico, you can't claim asylum. If you come here right now and you're from Mexico, you're going to get deported. But every other country can claim asylum.
What?
So
someone from Russia could claim asylum and just be here?
They could say, Putin has been mean to my family. And we go, okay, boom, go through. You have a court date 6 years from now. Come back, show up to your court date.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that the court dates are so far out.
Well, who's going to show up anyway? We know they don't.
Exactly.
And now we're going to go find them?
So it's changed within the administration that they are able to be in the United States for this time period until their court date.
Yep.
But it wasn't previously allowed.
Correct. So then the other big one, these missing children, the other big one is the Biden administration did not renew the DNA testing. So if a man came across with a child, they would DNA test both of them. And let's say that the man said he was the father. So they would DNA test both of them and say, look, you're not the father. So this is a problem. They stopped doing that. At the time,
Dr. Phil episodes ended.
Yeah. At the time, 30% of the kids weren't or didn't share DNA with the people bringing them over. 30%
Jeez.
Being trafficked.
Okay. Yeah.
We have no idea what it is now.
So somebody took that away in order to allow all these children to get into the country and be trafficked. Does that mean that someone on the inside is colluding or part of it that would, because why else would they think that's okay?
It doesn't.
Especially if they're children. They're not voting.
No.
So there goes the, conspiracy about them being able to just help someone get elected. They're kids.
It doesn't make any sense. And then you think about these NGOs they have a massive amount of money. Southwest Keys is one of them. They're worth almost $750 million.
What's that?
They house the unaccompanied children.
In the United States.
They're also being sued by the DOJ right now for I can't remember exactly, but basically child endangerment, sexual assault, all kinds of.
So the country is still is suing them, though.
Yes, but why did the DOJ just shut them down?
So they are wealthy because they're being paid by the cartels or being paid by other countries by being
tax dollars.
Paid with our tax dollars. It's so hard to understand, like, who the bad guy or girl is in all this.
It is a massive
Or
web.
how many?
Web.
Or if anyone's good.
Yeah, yes. And then there's people that we see them out in the desert in San Diego. They want to help the people come across, give them water, give them food, medical aid. And I'm actually a respiratory therapist, so I agree. I don't want to see anybody die out in the desert.
Right.
But if you keep helping and keep feeding and keep giving water to these people, they're going to keep coming. Right. They know that they're going to get help as soon as they cross that border.
It's like the dog that gets fed, kind of thing. They keep coming back. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure that's how they got domesticated. There's a funny meme where it's like standing by a campfire, a wolf's like, I'll just take some food once. This can't end up that bad, can it? And then all of a sudden it's dressed up in like a cowboy hat and boots on its birthday. This went really poorly. Oh my gosh.
Well, it's going really poorly for us, the taxpayers. Yeah.
Who do you think is winning from our country then in all of this?
The people taking advantage of these massive loopholes that we've allowed for 4 years now. People coming here illegally.
Okay. How are they benefiting?
They not only came here illegally, so as soon as they cross the border, that's already one law that's broken. Now, if these mountains and deserts that they're coming through are just littered with trash, all this stuff in here is stuff that we've picked up.
Yeah, I mean, for people to see, it's phones and passports of sorts.
Here's a little kid's passport right here.
Booklets and this stuff's just wild.
So now they're littering, and what's funny is we hear about environmentalists all the time and climate change and everything else. I've never seen one environmentalist out there picking up trash, and it's in waterways.
No-fly zone.
Yeah, I don't think they exist.
Yeah.
So it's polluting our waterways. There's just so much. It's incredible the amount of trash that's left out there. So who's benefiting? They are the NGOs. So the NGOs that are being funded by us are helping create the problem. So a lot of these NGOs in San Diego, before they were helping the homeless problem. But they were getting funding from our tax dollars, from our county board of supervisors, from the federal government and the state government to house the homeless. Well, if there are no homeless, then they don't get money to house the homeless. Mm-hmm. So they have no incentive to fix the homeless problem.
Right. It's like the big, it's like the medical industry.
Yes. So when the immigration problem started, those homeless people magically vacated those homeless shelters, and then they turned into immigration shelters. Where did all the homeless people go? So now what incentive do they have to fix the immigration problem when they get paid to help the immigration problem?
Okay, but they still have to get approved from above. So there's someone above that still has to be benefiting in some way or being manipulated, right? I mean, one of the politics is a little bit of a new arena for me to learn and understand, but there's probably a pretty relentless buy and sold process that happens because, as we witnessed how much money it took to run for president, one did a lot better than the other. But, whether it's at that level for president or whether it's for governor, mayor, senator, all of those things require an extreme amount of cash to be able to market yourself and get out there. And in the process, it's like, here's some money. This is what I work on. Mm-hmm. Please, I hope we'll have your, support. It's like nothing's free. So is this a manipulation thing that's happening? Or is this just big government making money, siphoning it somehow off, or personal money even? Like maybe this is how presidents go from, I think Trump's the first one to have a lower net worth after being president than anyone in a very, very long time. So I don't know. Is this how they make money?
I think it's a combination of all those things, because if you look at the board of some of these organizations like Jewish Family Services or Catholic Charities in San Diego, but they're also nationwide. The people on the board are former judges, former congressmen, former senators. So they have a lot of friends, they have a lot of pull.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they're not solving any problems. They're facilitating the ongoing problem. They don't have this is what we're going to do to solve the problem. They say, this is what we're going to do to help this problem, which prolongs the problem and doesn't solve anything. But then they're getting paid as directors or board members as well. A lot more than I get paid. So it's a huge issue. So our county board of supervisors, they voted to give these NGOs money, I think 3 separate times, millions of dollars. Why? I mean, the fires in California right now. LA is a sanctuary city, California sanctuary state. We are facilitating this invasion with our tax dollars. And then I think Biden came out today or yesterday and said he was going to give the fire victims $700-something bucks.
That's right. That's the going rate these days. When things go wrong in Maui or North Carolina or in California, you get $700 and some dollars.
Well, fill up your car in California like 5 times.
I can't even imagine how much the land, every single house that burned down, how much that one piece of land is worth.
Yeah.
And how many, especially the beachfront homes, I wonder how many are just like grandfathered in through families, and like, how are they ever going to be able to rebuild? And it's, what an incredible disaster.
And then on top of that, we have the insurance issues in California. So my house costs $7,000 a year to insure.
Do you not have fire insurance?
So I was dropped. I have the California Fair Plan,
okay,
which is a $20,000 deductible,
okay,
and $7,000 a year.
okay.
So I was dropped by our supplementary policy about 3 weeks ago.
Oh yeah, there was a huge release like very recently by the insurance companies.
So I called and said, hey, what's the deal? They said, oh, we sent you an email and you didn't fill it out and send it back to us. I said, I got a phone. Did you call me? No. We'll have to find you a new one. It's triple the price now.
I have a vineyard in Napa, and I can't get fire insurance. You have to go through, I mean, the fires have come through many times, and the one in 2020 came through the property and took out some of it, and as well as the crop from that year. And so, yeah, you have to go through so many different channels to try and get money back through different ways, and it's like a full-time job. It's just, I mean, do you buy into the DEW conspiracy with fires and different things, or reasons for it? Like, you know, of course, the words go around about like, oh, these smart city, this is supposed to be a smart city, and now they're clearing space, or North Carolina, where there's huge lithium fields, and now they've got the, you know, maybe now they'll all sell their land for cheap. It's like Maui, somebody else wanted it and build other things on it, and now the houses are leveled and they can go ahead and build their big structures. It's like, I mean, I think I love conspiracy theories. They're entertaining, and there's some mystery in them that's fun, but I think some of them are true. I don't buy into all of them, but you know, you've got to entertain these questions nowadays.
Well, especially since COVID, right?
Exactly.
What is a conspiracy anymore? It seems like they all come true at the end. So
it's made the cover of the newspaper when I was flying home yesterday. I was like, it's a little conspiracy theory. I'm like, we were there. It's finally at least accepted on some level as being a real thing.
Yeah. And in California, they really seem to come true. So I have a big one for you. I don't know if you saw this, but there's land out by the border near my house. And I've been looking at this parcel of land forever, trying to figure out, it just something wasn't right, didn't make sense. It's right where one of the spots where the border fence stops. It's owned by P. Diddy's former bodyguard.
Well, this is how we all started chatting, because when we were in Las Vegas, you were talking to my parents. You didn't. Yeah. I mean, maybe you figured out they were my parents.
I didn't even know until
after, probably. Yeah. But this is when I was moderating for Tulsi and Bobby, and in the fall, and my dad was telling me about that, and I'm like, that's wild.
There's this crazy bald guy that was telling me all these stories.
He's like telling me about that, and so anyway, I saw something in that. Anyway, so then I messaged you, and we're here now. But this is wild. I want to hear everything about this, because you know, thousands of bottles of baby oil is definitely not a normal thing to find in a house. So I'm curious what you think that is too. So it's supposedly owned by...
It is.
It is owned
Yes.
by P. Diddy or P. Diddy's
former body. And it gets even crazier, right? And I'm just trying to figure out what's going on at the border by my house. Right? And I stumble upon all this stuff. So it's owned by P. Diddy's former head of security, who has no security. He went to, I forgot
credentials or anything?
Basically, just some dude.
Okay.
He has a degree from like Sacramento State or Fresno State or something, business. Nothing, it doesn't make sense.
Okay.
So then we started looking more and more. We figure out that he's the last guy in the room when Michael Jackson died. He was his security as well. It went like graduate security, head of security for Michael Jackson, and then head of security for P. Diddy.
And the doctor took the fall for that one too with Michael Jackson.
Yeah. So I'm like, but I don't have time to even look into all this stuff. I'm just trying to figure out what the border problem is.
A lot of weird kid things too with both of those.
Yes. And right where the fence ends. I mean, the fence ends in multiple spots, but
sure.
This is a pretty known area.
So you said it was owned before by, was it owned before by Michael Jackson or Michael Jackson?
No. So
okay.
the same dude just happened to be Michael Jackson's head of security.
As well.
It would be like, hey, Cory, you're the head of security for Trump today. Like, what?
Well, you actually probably could, but a few more qualifications.
After our other story earlier, yes.
That's wild. So what do you think? What do you think that means?
I don't think anything's been going on there for the last few years because there's actually a Mexican military outpost right on the other side of that, literally right on the other side. So it's hard to get through that area now. But why would somebody buy that?
Yeah.
Why would somebody like that buy that?
Yeah.
Now I get why people buy land out there because you can buy acres and do whatever you want. That's what I did. So, but it's still a weird place. You wouldn't want to take your kids there. It's not really usable. Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Well, I mean, it sure seems like P. Diddy there was some children involved in his activities and maybe trafficking them too.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a correlation with Epstein as well, and maybe some sort of, you know, the elitist kind of like celebrity world of whatever it is that they do, and some of this I think they I don't know, this is my suspicion, is that they get filmed doing a lot of really nasty things, really bad things, and then they're now someone else can be in charge of them because they will now have easy blackmail on them for sure. So that seems like maybe what happens. I think it probably happens in politics too.
Yes. So
plenty of people on the Epstein manifest, the list that, you know, are not just singers.
Things get even more crazy. So I had my friend Melissa, I asked her if she would look into it. And then she said, well, did you know P. Diddy's house in Florida is across the canal from a huge port with shipping containers, like right across. If you look on Google, it's just right across the water there. Like none of this, you know, we're back to conspiracy theories and
shipping baby oil.
It just doesn't make sense.
What do you think that baby oil was?
Probably not baby oil.
This is probably not an old school moment with Blue in a bathtub with a hot chick and lots of KY.
I don't think his boy was Blue.
I don't think Blue was Epstein's house over there. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when it comes to drug trafficking, I mean, we're talking about child trafficking, which, you know, is horrific, but drug as well. And obviously with the fentanyl stuff going on, I mean, what have you learned about all that and how it's happening?
So what we figured out, when we started picking this stuff up, we started seeing lots of kids, lots of males, military-age males, and lots of kids. And then we would see a kid, like two black parents and a white kid that doesn't speak the same language that the parents do. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't make any sense, right? So then we started looking into all this stuff, and then we start hearing about how if they can't pay, the people coming across, if they can't pay the end of their journey, they're given a backpack or a bag or something, and they're told where to leave it on our side of the border, full of drugs. So then we start hearing about massage parlors and what else? The Chinese restaurants where there's child labor. So child trafficking then turns into child labor. And it just opened up all kinds of other avenues here. So what we figured out, and I mean, we kind of knew it, but we never really saw it, is that all of these nefarious activities are all connected. So maybe you came across to smuggle a kid and then you didn't have enough money. So then you ended up smuggling drugs and a kid. Now you're going to go to somewhere on the East Coast or...
And the drugs are to connect the dots. So if they don't have the money, it means they were given drugs by someone, and that's their pass through. Is that so there's a new person now added into this person trying to get across, because they're like, okay, if you don't have cash, we're going to make you carry this drugs.
Yep.
We'll help you get across, but this is your penance. You have to carry the drugs.
Yep. And we've talked to a lot of these people, and they've told us this. Starlink has been a game changer for us because there's no service in a lot of these places. So now I can use the translator on my phone and actually get information from these people. Mm-hmm. We've been told by numerous people that they were told to come across and leave a backpack under one of the bridges out in the Hukumba area. And we've gone down there a couple times. We haven't seen anything, but we imagine it gets picked up pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And then back to the NGOs. We've seen the NGOs coordinating with people in the South, which is kind of treason. Mm-hmm. So we get lucky by when we go out there, and if we see a group or groups, it's just kind of luck, right? How do they come out every single time with waters as soon as a group crosses?
The right time, right?
Yeah, it's just magic, coincidence. Mm. So, and some of these churches have churches down, some of these churches that are facilitating this have churches down in Tecate or Tijuana, and they just work with each other to help push these people across.
I mean, technology is so good these days, beyond what we even probably realize is possible. Why aren't there like heat-seeking radars at night? If they're traveling at night, surely you'd be able to have some kind of drone with radar that would sense, like, they would be able to see people through heat or something like that. Like, why isn't there a process like that being implemented to try and catch? Obviously, I probably answering my own question by saying because no one's trying to catch them.
Kind of, but we've also learned that, paraphrasing the number here, I don't remember the exact number, but a report came out saying something like 30% of the Border Patrol's cameras were down. Yeah.
Kind of like Epstein's camera was down.
But here's $700 for people whose house burned down. And then however many billions that we sent out of this country. Yeah. So what we've kind of surmised from all this is that we were never ready. Our country, we were all too proud. Our country's never going to get invaded. Well, we've been invaded. We are invaded. There are terrorists here. I have one of their cell phones right here.
A real terrorist.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
So there's not a task force that was ready for this stuff. So we have HSI, we have Joint Terrorism Task Force, JTTF, and they look into all this stuff. But I've talked to all of them, and all of them are like, yeah, usually it's HSI telling me to talk to JTTF or JTTF telling me to talk to HSI. I'm like, I've talked to both of you now. What are we doing?
What do those stand for, HSI?
HSI is Homeland Security Investigations.
Okay.
And then JTTF is Joint Terrorism Task Force, led by the FBI.
Cash can't come soon enough. Cash Patel, that is.
Yeah. I mean, I wish they'd come through and just remove all of these organizations. It's like when people ask me about it, I don't go to the DMV to renew my registration. I go to AAA because I'm out in 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. If I go to the DMV, I'll be there all day. Mm-hmm. The government is just, they're not working. Yeah.
They're super inefficient.
And we don't fire anybody. Mm. There's a lot of people that need to be fired.
Well, that's going to happen.
Hopefully.
That's definitely going to happen. So what's the process? It's kind of just like baseline this. So the process for someone that's coming across the border, who are they? Where are they coming from? Why are they coming? And then how do they actually get across? And what are their methods to get across?
It's a very difficult question because there's so many different countries that these people are coming from, different areas, and let's take one for example. So let's back up. So let's look at this other phone that I have. This phone is from a Chinese guy this was very early on when we started looking at this stuff. This phone opened up an entire new world for us of Telegram chats. Oh. All of these Telegram chats that were explaining how to get into the United States are on this phone. At the time, there was almost 10,000 members on that chat.
Oh my God.
30,000 pictures.
And what country was it based in?
Wuhan, China.
Oh.
Yeah. So the reason as I'm looking through the phone, I see the number 11632 in one of the pictures. And I couldn't remember what it was. Just kind of caught my eye. It's the coordinates for where I live. They have the exact coordinates on where the cuts in the fence are. So we're going through this. I mean, the chats are still active today. They're still talking about today. So we're looking through this stuff, and the guy's entire trip from Wuhan to San Diego border, eastern San Diego border, he took pictures along the way, documented his entire trip here. Now, this guy is taller than average for a Chinese man, mm-hmm. bigger than average, muscular, and military kind of haircut. He took pictures in front of prominent buildings throughout his journey, which maybe he just wanted to take a picture of himself in front of a church. Or maybe all of these places that he stopped and took pictures, he's sending back to someone saying, I made it to this checkpoint. Mm-hmm. 'Cause that's exactly what we did in the Army when we flew. We would call back every checkpoint that we hit. So now this guy, when he had a picture of his passport in there and a picture of an address in San Gabriel, California. Now we know that a lot of the Chinese people are going to San Gabriel, the San Gabriel area, or Flushing, New York. I still don't know where that is. Somewhere in New York. So
is New York a sanctuary state, or just?
I don't know.
No, maybe not. Just California. Is California the only state?
Probably. Yeah. Probably. We're going to turn it around.
I was going to say, y'all are going to be Republican in no time.
So I was at a canine narcotics conference in LA, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go check out this address. And I also...
In San Gabriel?
So, yes. So
is that in Southern California?
Yeah. It's in between. It's like by LA.
Okay.
I think everything's by LA that's above us, so somewhere up there. But the tax address for P. Diddy's bodyguard's property was also in LA. So I had some free time. I'm going to go check them all out.
Oh my God.
So that's what's kind of started this
scavenger hunt for truth.
I go to this address, the Chinese address, and I parked, and I'm looking down some nice townhomes right next to a school. There's a no soliciting sign on the wall, and then under it, it's in Mandarin. Well, this is interesting.
Translator.
So I can't read that, so I just walked right past it. And I went to the house. There were windows on the top of the garage door, and they were covered. And there were tons of Amazon boxes just laying outside. There were probably 20 pairs of shoes by the front door.
Oh, yeah, there was a lot of kids in there.
So I knocked on the door. There were
people, at least.
Yeah, there were, I can't remember how many cameras. There were 3 or 4 cameras, a motion detector on the door. So I knocked on the door, held the guy's phone up. I said, hey, I got his phone. I just wanted to return it to him. Danica, they never answer the door.
Yeah.
I was being very nice. I don't know why.
It seems like a very plausible reason to knock on the door. Very kind thing to do.
I heard scattering around. Nobody answered it. So then I go back to this app that I have, how I found the P. Diddy thing. Mm-hmm. That property, the whole complex was owned by, I think it was, the name was Yellow Tiger Inc. And that's a whole nother rabbit hole. So these Chinese organizations or Chinese people are operating the human smuggling ring just like how they operate the illegal marijuana business in California.
There's still an illegal marijuana business in California?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they
thought that the drug legalization thing was supposed to solve problems?
Created a huge black market.
Jeez.
Because they tax it massively.
Exactly.
They create these LLCs. I think the one was in textiles.
Okay.
And then they will make it so it looks like a legitimate business, and then they will have they will smuggle people there. They will pay for the services. 6 months, 8 months later, they'll close the LLC and open another one. Okay. So it takes the government too long, because bureaucracy, to catch up to what they're doing. So they just keep doing it over and over and over.
So are these people just coming to try and get out of their own country and live in America, or are they working for groups? Are they more nefarious? Yeah, all of the above.
Some people are here because we met a man, his wife, and his 2 kids from Syria a couple weeks ago. And you can kind of tell when people are faking their emotions or they're sincere. This guy was in tears telling us about his trip through the Darien Gap, through the jungle basically, to get here. And the translator wasn't working great, so I couldn't make out if he was telling me that his wife was raped or his daughter was raped. His daughter was like 3.
Oh, goodness.
Yes, but he could barely talk to us at all. Now, he could be faking it, right? But I think that guy was here for a better life. Now, the same day or the day before, we found a Chinese man, again, taller than normal, more muscular than normal, walking through the mountains by himself. He's probably in his 30s. He had no phone, he did have a phone. On his phone, he had no pictures, no contacts. He had no passport, no ID, nothing.
Oh, yeah, this was a burner phone for whatever he needed to do.
Yep. Now he's here. We got done that day 4 or 5 hours later, and I'm driving back on the highway or on the road home, and he's just walking down the road. He's now got away.
How do illegals get away with staying? How do they stay? How do they avoid getting caught? Well, I guess in the last few years, nobody's getting caught. Nobody's getting deported. How would they? And then what also gets them caught? I mean, was anyone deported? I mean, surely somebody had to be. And so what would they do that would put them in danger of getting deported? What are the tactics that they use to stay here?
So are we talking about California or normal states?
Probably normal. I think California, anything goes. I don't think you have to do anything. I mean, literally, you could vote without any kind of identification. Police officers are not even allowed to ask about your immigration status, correct? California's a free-for-all at this point, right? I mean, is that
except for me?
Fair to say? Well,
for other people, yes. California is actually a good example because I got a call a few months ago from an HSI friend, and he said, "Hey, I need to tell you this. This is from somebody else. An illegal alien was caught molesting the child of a local Navy SEAL."
Oh dear.
So then a guy comes into my gun store, another agency, and tells me the same story. They don't know each other. They don't know that I know. And so now it's confirmed from 2 different people. I'm sure you've never heard about that story.
No.
So, because we're a sanctuary state. So that guy, his name is Jose Confessor. He had a counterfeit Guatemalan visa. So he was here illegally. He actually had broken into that house twice. This was the second time. So not only has the Navy covered this up, the city, the county, the state, and for some reason the feds are covering this up. So when ICE went to go do a detainer, meaning when ICE went to go get him from the county jail, they denied the detainer. Now that's common in California because of the sanctuary status. Like we don't talk about immigration status to the feds.
Denied the detainer, meaning like they could go back, or what are you saying?
He's ours, and you can't come get him because we're a sanctuary state. The only reason ICE would be going there to go get somebody is if it was an immigration issue. So they denied the detainer, and then they requested to come interview the guy. When they did, they took his phone. They had to call ICAC, which is Internet Crimes Against Children, to go through his phone because that had horrific things in his phone. Nobody's ever heard about it. I mean, I have SEAL friends. It's a very small community, right?
Yeah, there's nothing.
They've never heard of about it.
Oh yeah.
So it's someone in their command on the West Coast that is not letting this stuff out. I mean, I can imagine why. The border would probably be secure that afternoon.
Like, how does someone go undetected?
So as long as you don't do anything dumb, you're not going to get
So
detected.
if you even get pulled over for speeding, that's dumb, right? So you could get, that's like...
Technically, I sped the whole way here to see you today, so...
Sped and get caught. Sped and got caught.
So
you have to prove, show your identification. And
if they got pulled over here, for example, they would get pulled over, and then they might call. It depends what's going on too, right? Because the officers, cops have discretion. We're still, what do we have, like 6 more days? So today, I'm not sure what would happen. In a couple weeks, they might say, I don't care who you pull over. If they are illegal, you're going to bring them to, or ICE will come get them, and we will deport them, period. Today, I don't think that happens. I think it kind of depends on the crime.
okay. What are Homan's plans to deport, have the, you know, as Trump said, the biggest mass deportation of people possible? I know you said earlier that these things might just get hung up in court. I think something's going to have to happen. I feel like this is one of the most important issues amongst voters was the border. So what are the plans? What is Homan said is going to happen, and what happens with people that don't have identification? What happens with sanctuary cities, these buildings, these government buildings, the handouts they're being given with, you know, credit cards for food and phones and all of these things? Like, what is going to get shut down, and what's going to happen to make this mass deportation actually happen?
I think it will start in states like Arizona, Texas, where you guys are already helping. You know, he's probably not going to go to California and say, I'm here to help, because our wonderful leadership is going to say, no, you're not. But they're already stopping things in Texas and Arizona a lot more than
state
just
itself.
a few months ago. Yeah, and he's already met with people from both states and working with them to implement these plans. So California is going to be a whole nother animal on how that's going to work. But the county board of supervisors voted, I don't know, maybe a month ago, to make San Diego a super sanctuary city. I don't even know what that is.
What does that mean?
You just throw pretty words in front of things now.
Jeez. Oh my God.
Extra super sanctuary city. So they voted yes. And then our sheriff, which a lot of us were surprised about, Kelly Martinez, said, that's great. I'm glad you voted on that, but you're not my boss. And we're going to abide by the laws in California. So the Board of Supervisors, they don't make laws. Now the sanctuary state thing is a law. So she has to abide by those. Well, in her opinion, she has to abide by those. I think it's unconstitutional. So she does abide by those. But so the super sanctuary thing didn't work. But then Nora Vargas, one of the county supervisors, got a letter from Trump's team saying, it's wonderful everything that you did, but this is against the law, and we will make sure that you're held accountable. Magically, she resigned. Yeah.
That came from Trump's team, a letter?
Yep. So I think there's going to be a lot of that. People that have been just flaunting and doing everything they can to enable this immigration problem. You know, more bark than bite. As soon as Trump's team goes, thank you for doing that, we're going to put you in prison.
Yeah.
I think those people are going to disappear quickly.
And you think they're probably doing it because they're probably getting paid on some level by someone to allow these things to happen.
Paid or votes.
Yeah.
Promises.
What other things is Homan going to do? I mean, there's got to be some things that we all know. And who else is also in charge too? Like more than, I mean, Tom Homan's one person. I know he's in charge and he's border czar, as it's been now called. There's other people involved too. Like what will, I mean, if, you know, Kash Patel being in charge of the FBI, if that's who you say is working on the border, like what kind of things can happen? You know, my friend Tulsi, I mean, head of national intelligence, there's going to be a lot of information coming her way about what's going on. What can all these people do? Or, you know, Pete Hegseth, I mean, he's been like all over the news today, obviously, and everybody's loving him. So, you know, what can they do?
Well, Tulsi has a very good idea of what's going on because we took her to the border.
Yeah, you talked about that. I think I heard you talking on a podcast. She was like the only Democrat that had said she'd go down to the border, and that maybe it was one of the things that helped really sort of shift things for her.
It was when she came out. It was probably almost a year ago. So I think last February, it was extremely busy. Groups of a couple hundred people.
Oh, okay.
And so she saw that firsthand, and she saw these IDs. She saw all of the stuff that we have, and she knows how big of a national security this stuff is. And when I testified in Congress about some of this stuff, I talked in the chats. They're talking about our nuclear posture for our country.
Shit, nuclear.
So they are watching. They're taking pictures of our infrastructure, in the Chinese chat specifically. They're taking pictures of police stations and fire stations. They took a picture of SpaceX, and they're putting it in the chats to go back to China. So, what?
Maybe that's why Elon had to leave California and go to Texas so that he could secure some of his information.
Because it's definitely not secure in California. So, Tulsi has a very good idea of what's going on. And when she came out, we actually took her from the far east border all the way down into the city. So she saw where the fentanyl comes in and then where it ends up and how it's affecting our people in town. So some of these other people, what I'm hoping is that they're not too high up. They're not too far away from the problem. And that's kind of what I'm worried about.
Well, they can't get better titles. I mean, right? But the ultimate truth is that who really is in charge and who's calling the shots, right? Yes. But are they too insulated to see on the granular level what actually is going on? Do they? So we have 15 game cameras up on one of the mountains near the border right now, and just on the way driving here today, the camera's firing off all morning long. People crossing. Oh wow! I feel like a lot of people think that it's slowed down massively or stopped completely. It's not. People are crossing all day long. Well, it's their last chance. Every day. So I'm sure some people feel that. Yes. So I'm really hoping that these people will actually come put eyes on this problem. So when Tulsi came out, we didn't tell anybody that she was coming. So she got to see the actual problem. When Newsom came out, he flew in 2 Blackhawk helicopters to Boulevard, California, landed, took a convoy out to the border, but they all knew he was going to be there. Everything was cleaned up, spotless. He didn't see what the actual problem looks like. So there's so many problems with the higher ups in the Border Patrol trying to make sure that their areas look pretty before anybody comes out, and that's not helping anybody. That's not helping the country. Are those Border Patrol employees being paid off? I'm sure some of them are. I don't think we've encountered, we don't know any. Well, I watched Line in the Sand, which you were in, and it looked like they were all working together. So their morale is basically non-existent right now. They are, a lot of them have families. A lot of them are about my age. They have families and kids, and they have bills and mortgages, especially in California. So it's still their job, and now they're being told, hey, we trained you to be some of the best human trackers in the world, and now you're going to drive a bus and bring these people in, which is great. They bring them in through the checkpoint on the freeway and then stop me on the checkpoint. It drives me absolutely insane. Like I was just here yesterday. So I'm sure there are bad Border Patrol. I'm sure there's bad cops. I think a lot of them just want to go back to doing their job. Didn't Trump say he was going to hire like 10,000 more or something, or a whole bunch more? Yes, but there's a big problem here because the current administration pushed out all the people that had the opportunity to retire. Not all of them. A lot of the people that had the opportunity to retire retired. They're done. They didn't want to deal with this. So then the people in the middle, which I have some friends that said, I'm not doing this. They're going to different agencies. One of our actual ATF guy for the gun store was Border Patrol, and he left to go be ATF. I don't know which one's better or worse, but we make fun of him all the time. But so now there's very few people in the middle. So you have all new people and nobody to train them.
So they're going to have to bring these guys out of retirement to come back, maybe as contractors or something, to train all the new guys who all they know is to take instruction, drive the bus, fill the bus up with people and drive it into town, drop them off.
And also they're probably trying to not die.
Yes.
I mean, how dangerous is it to be a border patrolman and have the cartel show up with children to be trafficked, or car full of drugs, or backpacks full of drugs? I mean, are they murdered? I mean, like, how does that happen? Is that part of...
There's memorials in San Diego from Border Patrol agents who have been killed. And you're talking about how dangerous it is. These cameras that we've set up, we've had 3 of them stolen by cartel members now. 2 of them one had a rifle and one had a pistol. One of them walked probably over 100 yards into the United States, armed. I don't know what other country you could do that in and not get shot.
Right, you'd think you just cross the threshold, and there should be patrol 24 hours a day. There should be, again, like I said, drones should be heat-seeking things out. Yes. There should be, there's all kinds of sensors. I mean, we
have the technology.
Million satellites in the sky that can literally see through houses based on frequency and vibration. They know where someone's moving. Everything can be detected.
So they, on the south side, they're using very rudimentary stuff. The last guy that stole our camera had like Army fatigues on and a cheap pair of binoculars. He was watching us the whole time. So they're brazen enough to come into the U.S. armed because they know nothing's going to happen to them. As long as they don't point a gun at somebody, nothing's going to happen to them. So when this happened, I posted this picture on our Instagram. Almost 24 hours went by before I saw a Border Patrol vehicle in that. Since I posted that picture, the border's wide open. Yeah. Wide open.
And what are the ways? Because at least in Line in the Sand, there was, obviously there's the wall itself. They're literally cutting the wall. There's gaps in the wall, as you pointed out. And there's tunnels too. So is there any, how many people are coming through the tunnels that don't even get detected as far as, cameras go, and it goes so far?
There are tunnels. We've never found any tunnels. We don't really, the areas that we're in, there's actually no border fence at all. It's very mountainous. So back in the day, they said, who's going to climb over this mountain to come into the country? Why do we need to put a fence there?
Someone that's trying to get kids or drugs or get out of their own.
They didn't think about that very well. The tunnels are more along the populated areas. So down in like Otay Mesa or San Ysidro, where you have tons of buildings and then 15 feet or so to the fence and then another 15 feet, and then Mexico, just tons of buildings. Because then they only have to go 30, 45 feet with a tunnel. Yeah. So we don't go down there because we wouldn't see anybody, because the tunnels often go into a building.
Can people fly in too? Aren't they also flying people around? I feel like I've heard there's, people that are working, work for airlines, and they used to get free seats if they were open, and then, they never get them now because they're all people, illegal aliens that are being transported to different cities. That was in Line in the Sand as well. They're like, oh, I'm going to this city. I'm going to this city. They're going all over the country.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy is they'll come across with addresses. I think there's one in here.
Of places to go?
Yeah. Like, this is where I'm going. Like, how do you know you're going there?
So are these now like the government housing for these sanctuary cities that they are given an address to?
Sometimes they are. Like in Line in the Sand, they talked about the church guy, priest, or whatever he was.
Yeah.
Slimy guy. We found some phone numbers and addresses of a immigration shelter in New York. So, but they use these same addresses over and over and over. Could just be one house. Could, like that Chinese house in San Gabriel. They could use that address 1,000 times. Yeah. And you would think the Border Patrol guy who's inputting that address would go, hey, we've seen this address 100 times now.
Right. Red flag. What do you think should be addressed first? Children, drugs? I'm going to guess it's probably children. It's probably the most insensitive to say not so much. But what's the hardest? What's the hardest one to police once we get the right people in position that actually care and do something about it? What do you think could be checked off the list first for things that could be accomplished?
I think the easiest thing will be to deport the criminals.
Yeah.
We already have them in custody.
Yeah.
Just
Okay.
get them out of here.
They're in custody?
So, well, like in San Diego, for example, all of the people who have committed crimes that are in jail in San Diego County or San Diego City that are not here legally, they can't talk to ICE because of California's laws. So if we say, cool, we're not going to do that anymore, we're going to come in and we'll just scan everybody and figure it out on our own, then those people are easy because they're already in jail cells. The kids are going to be really hard to find. There's so many bad things. The child labor, there's labor camps all throughout the country. A subsidiary of Hyundai was just busted a few months ago in, I think it was Atlanta, for hiring child labor. So that's hard because you don't have, these kids are brainwashed.
Sure.
They don't even know anything's wrong. So how do they report it? Who do they report it to? There's going to be so many tips that flow in. This is going to be a massive undertaking. But luckily, we have a lot of these passports, IDs, addresses, phone numbers that somebody just has to call. Some agency at some point, we're hoping that they call and say, hey, can we look at the stuff you have so we can help get rid of these people? And we'll say, yeah, where you been?
Plant security at these addresses, track these numbers. Like, it just seems like someone actually has to want to do it.
I know guys within these different organizations, and they all want to do it, but they keep saying that their hands are tied.
But that was the other caveat I was going to say, but they need the power too.
Yeah.
What would you do? I mean, with the GOAT initiative, I mean, what do you have as capabilities within your group and your organization? And then what else? And then on top of that, just what do you think would be the right things to implement to get this under control?
So when we first started, we started looking into this stuff, and well, first we just started picking up trash, and then it happened
That's
to be
how it started?
passports, and kind of. One of the neighbors on the neighborhood Facebook page said there was a large group of Chinese people walking down the freeway on the 8. That makes no sense. So I got in the truck and drove out there, and that's kind of what started everything. So for us, we keep picking this stuff up. We keep talking to people. We keep getting addresses and phone numbers, where they're going. And we have a huge database of all this stuff. So we basically created different target packages. So when somebody has the power and the want to come help and get rid of the people that shouldn't be here and help find these kids, we have the cases ready to go. We've looked into all these NGOs, and mind you, we're just former military and police who were sick of watching this happen. Especially the national security stuff is just absolutely insane. So we've been working to put stuff together so when someone calls, we can just hit the ground running. The big thing is shut down these NGOs yesterday, because if we don't have people helping, like if you feed the birds are going to keep coming. Stop feeding the birds. They're not going to come anymore.
I mean, do you think that's going to happen?
I think it has to. I think that's the easiest thing to do is cut the money, cut the funding. Now the county might, the county might not, the state might not. But if the feds cut the money, like even with the sanctuary stuff, if the feds came and said, California, you are great, and we love your sanctuary state. You can have that, and you're not going to see another dime from us.
Right, sure.
California's going to go, wait, what?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So
exactly.
A lot of this stuff is cutting the money and then following the money. And we don't have the systems to do a lot of this stuff. Like these passports, when we just find pages ripped out with nothing on them, they still have passport numbers. You can still look it up and see who it is.
You mentioned nuclear earlier, and that's kind of scary.
Yeah, they use the Chinese use these chats, or the CCP uses these chats to send stuff back and forth, like open source, but stuff that I'm not going to send my friend a picture of a police station.
Yeah.
But if you have 10,000 people sending pictures of police stations in all throughout the country, and like I said, SpaceX and other critical infrastructure. Now in China, while they could see stuff on satellite imagery or even Google Earth or Google Maps, now they have pictures, high resolution pictures sent right to them. They're just collecting all this stuff and waiting.
The government, or waiting on the administration shift?
So the Chinese Communist Party is collecting all of this data, and who knows what their plan is in the future.
That's where the nuclear comes in, as far as a danger. I mean, as far as like breaking it down and the different kinds of people that you've come across, is it people looking for that are surveying, doing things like pictures and wild, like things like that are out of place? Is it drug trafficking? Is it child trafficking? Is it organ harvesting? Is it, what does it seem like the split is? It's
very hard because along the border, when we talk to these people, they're on their best behavior because they're claiming asylum. So they can't be fighting or yelling at us and trying to claim asylum. You still have to play by the rules to claim asylum.
Yeah.
So we have to try to figure out right there, right then, what they're here for, and then we make notes on the different people that are coming through. The nuclear stuff is just crazy that they're talking about that. They're also going to or taking pictures of San Diego Bay, the aircraft carriers and the ships, and putting those in the chats. I mean, you would think
these things are so out of place.
Yes.
Why'd anyone care if they're just trying to escape their country because they're in danger and they need asylum?
Yep. You think
here's an aircraft carrier.
Yeah. If they were claiming asylum for a real reason, you think they'd come here and try to hide.
Yeah.
And be quiet and not want anybody to know where they are.
Yeah.
But they're all over these chats, talking about everything.
You think that the asylum should be do you think this is a worthy reason for people to be able to just come into our country? Do you think that's...
No. Now, I don't think we should shut it down completely because we are a prosperous nation. People probably do need to claim asylum for some reasons. I think the process that we have doesn't work now. The process that we had before didn't work. It should probably be streamlined.
Citizenship is wildly opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yes.
There's a friend I know that took 30 years to get her citizenship from Australia, which is wild.
Yeah.
Or you just walk across.
Yep. And people, especially in San Diego, people have joked about that. Just, well, why don't I've been waiting 10 years. Why don't I just go down to TJ and then walk back across?
Right.
And, what is the incentive to do the right thing? There isn't one.
Why is that? What is wrong with that process? Why is it broken? And what could take someone 10, 20, 30 years to get their citizenship? What is that process within the government?
For normal citizenship, to come to the United States and try and get citizenship, I'm not sure how that process actually works. I know that it takes forever, like you said. I know that when Reagan was president, he did some kind of amnesty program that allowed employers to vouch for employees at the time. Whatever we do to moving forward, the whole process needs to be changed. And it needs to be streamlined. And then it also needs to be, especially the asylum process needs to be streamlined. We can't give somebody a court appearance 5 years, 6, 7 years from now because we know they're not going to show up. It just doesn't make sense. All the while they're using our resources and our tax dollars. So it's not like when I grew up in San Diego and people would come across illegally, there's a word we don't use anymore, assimilate, right? They would come here, assimilate, work their butts off, and try to become a citizen.
Right.
Now, they're still here illegally, right?
Right.
But the people that we're meeting out of the border now, they're not assimilating at all. They are here and basically saying, we've seen NGOs give illegal immigrants food out of the border, and they were complaining about the food that they were getting. That's not assimilation.
I think that's one of the worst things that we've seen happening with just them illegal aliens just doing whatever they want, whether it's, cutting, they're killing the cats, killing the dogs.
Starting fires.
Just starting fire. Yeah, the fire in California that just happened was started by an illegal alien, right?
And so when I left this morning, our power was shut off, and from SDG&E, billion-dollar company, they can't get their shit together.
San Diego's definitely not LA, so.
So the power was shut off, and we will go out tomorrow. Actually, we're going out to the border, and we will see remnants of fires that have been started to keep people warm out at the border. Mm-hmm. There's 60-mile-an-hour winds out there right now. Mm-hmm. So there's just so many problems within. It's not just people coming here for a better life, and people keep saying that, and I'm so sick of hearing it.
I don't think they have to be afraid of getting caught anymore.
No,
is part of the problem. So why assimilate when you can just do whatever the heck you want?
Yeah.
And no one's allowed to ask questions, especially when you're in the right city or state.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of this problem has moved to California, because Arizona, Texas.
How does this affect the children then too? Like you think these people, they move here, they live, they maybe bring kids, they have kids, they enter the school system. Like, I don't know. Do you know anything about that and how that's affected schools in these areas?
So one of the other things they talk about in the chats are how to come to the United States and then basically exploit all of the welfare system, especially in California. So while we pay taxes for schools and roads and everything else, they are not. So, but then they still get to enroll their kids in school. There's one thread in the chats that talks about the community college system. And if you can show that you are poor, that you can go to community college for free. And then you can go to like San Diego State for free after that. And then it says, then you should come back to China after you get your degree. So we're paying for all of this, and nobody's paying attention.
I think people are paying attention. I think things are definitely going to change. I mean, don't you?
It has to.
Yeah.
It has to. Rapidly. It's very discouraging because we keep seeing it. It's not stopping.
Sure. And I mean, even in line in the sand, as the, people that were asked questions that were willing to speak, they said, you're never going to stop it. And, I don't think anybody thinks it's going to be 100% gone, because there's always, in any situation, there's going to be people trying to get away with things and illegal activity of some sort. But it's so out of control now. I mean, it's so out of control that, it's got to get much, much better.
It has to. We're going to run out of money.
Yeah.
And people talk about the wall and how that's easily defeated with a ladder and it's pointless. What they don't understand is that the wall is just one tool that Homeland Security and Border Patrol has. It's a force multiplier, and it slows things down. So the wall also has sensors on it, seismic sensors. So we're in California, we've got earthquakes. So the ground's always moving. So the sensors are moving, and there's a lot of erroneous readings, but the wall slows people down. So if the camera over here, if we get them all working again, can see that people are crossing. Well, now maybe you only got 3 people before Border Patrol got there, rather than 100.
Well, it's like, if you have a house and you have a security system, you have a gate, and you have all these different things. It's like, if somebody really wants to get into your house, they'll get into your house. But you just need to sort of keep phases and levels of honesty out, right? Or dishonesty, I should say, to make it a little bit more difficult for people.
Yeah. Time and distance.
Yeah.
Slow them down.
Yeah. Is there anything that people can do? Is there anything that regular Americans can do? Is it to help this process?
Well, it's going to be, they've talked about, they've talked about having a hotline or something in the future that you can report people, and that's going to be interesting. Seems very Hitlerish to me, but at the same time, we're so deep into this problem, and it's going to cost so much money to fix this problem. I really think that the people that created this Joe Biden, Kamala, the NGOs, I think they all need to be held accountable.
Well, didn't they just say that we're going to like fire sale all the wall materials, and then the government's going to have to buy it back to build the wall? I mean, what kind of bullshit is that?
This stuff just keeps happening like that.
Why don't we have names? Why don't we know who did that? Why don't we know who's in charge? Why don't we know who's calling these terrible shots? Or do we? I mean,
we need agencies to actually look into things like the FBI. They should be looking into this stuff.
Yeah. Who do you think is a couple of the most important people outside of the president that are going to be put in a position that are going to make a difference?
Tulsi, for one, for the intelligence and the massive amount of problems that we're going to have with national security. One of the big numbers that I heard recently was every month we are getting an entire U.S. Marine Corps of illegal people in our country.
Oh, wow.
It's insane.
Well, when at AmFest in Tucker's speech, I was kind of surprised that he singled her out in this way, but he basically said, you'll know that things are moving forward when they put Tulsi Gabbard in position. When they hire her and have her in the administration, then you know everything's going in the right direction. And I was like, wow. I mean, just, he's pretty on the inside.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy. And the fact that he named her as specifically as being the one thing that you'll know that is a positive move forward for everyone will be when she gets put into position.
Yes, and she's extremely smart. And I'm just very glad that she got to see how bad it was. It sucks that she had to see that, but she got to see how bad it was at one of the peak crossing times. So she knows how many bad people are in this country.
And then what will she be able to do if she does the right thing, if she makes a difference? What is it she can do as head of national intelligence that would help the most? Because I don't even know what these people's job descriptions are, right? So I've learned more about titles after this election.
There's so many different
people. Because it got so exciting. They're like, oh, for this position. I'm like, wow, there's so many people.
Well, and that's part of the problem, right? How many people do we need?
I thought they said they needed I thought it was 5,000 or something. And it's no, 14,000 people actually need to get hired when a president's elected, which is a lot. And then I was looking up just even, how many people the government employs. And the government actually employs, there's the biggest employer in this country. It's 2.4 million and 3 million if you include the Postal Service. That's how many people the government employs. So anyway, but 14,000, I guess, maybe with the change of presidents. But that's a lot of people.
How long does it take to get everybody onboarded?
Well, I think this is what happened the last time around with Trump, is that he, it isn't until you actually are elected that you are able to start building out your cabinet and building out the people that are going to work for you. But he started that 3 months before. And that's why there was so much conversation about all this stuff way long time ago about people being put in position, because he knew that once you don't have much time and you got to move fast, and having the people in position as soon as possible would behoove of him and his mission. So the most dangerous thing they could do is for him to not be elected that second time, because it's like getting to be the first time president again. Because the thing is, if he would have been elected the second time right away, it would have been the same staff, same thing. But now it's a complete start over, right? I mean, obviously, look what happened with Pence. He's VP. What happened there? So, he gets an entirely new shot at this, but with all the experience. So it's going to be actually, the interview I had before you was with a medium, and she's also works with astrology too, and someone who's an expert in that, and that this is a year 9, this is a completion year, and things are going to change. This will be the year that there will be full cleanup of everything, and then next year will be fresh start, new beginning, everything will be solved.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that, because I've been, it's become hard to be optimistic with everything that we just keep seeing, and all these kids coming through. We've seen children that have been drugged so they keep quiet when they're coming across.
Of course, I'm sure.
So it's hard to be optimistic, but we have to be. We don't have any other choice.
What is it that you'll see, since you're right there on the border, and this all started with you generally picking up garbage? What is it that you'll visually be able to see, you think, that will make you convinced that things are changing?
when my cameras stop firing off all day long with people crossing, that will be, I'm hoping, like, next week, Border Patrol gets to go do their job again.
Yep.
And I won't see people cross, especially people crossing with guns. It's just insane. But that'll be easy because I'll know immediately. I don't see them on the cameras anymore.
Well, then I'll give you a call in a couple of months and we'll do an update and see what's really changed and what hasn't. That would be good to hear.
Yeah, and we're going to go put more cameras out tomorrow. So.
Yeah. What is the mission of the GOAT initiative?
So, well, we started out trying to identify and find these missing children. And now, like we talked about at the beginning, it's just turned into, okay, well, now we know where they're coming across with drugs. Now we know, potential terrorists that are in here. We didn't talk about that. The phone, we talked about the Chinese phone, but the phone that we found from a gentleman who is from the area in between Pakistan and Afghanistan in the mountains, in the middle of nowhere. And somehow this guy made it to the Southern California border. He's in his 60s. There's pictures of him in the phone, and it looks like he was fighting for the Taliban when he was younger, in his teenage years. So he is, from the pictures in his phone, fleeing from the Pakistani government. The organization that he currently works for has been deemed a terrorist organization in Pakistan. So if he's a good guy or a bad guy, we still need to talk to this dude and say, hey, tell us everything you know.
Yeah.
And how many thousands of these people are in our country now?
Yeah.
So the GOAT initiative, we started out, like you said, just picking up trash. Now we have all of this stuff. We've been collecting it, analyzing it, putting it into a database that we can look stuff up and see stuff on the news. Some guy's name pops up and like, I wonder if I have his passport. And so we've just been creating this stuff to give to law enforcement once they get the green light to go do their jobs again.
Good work. Thank you.
Thank you
for all that you're doing and helping out. And, it's kind of, that's the way the universe works. You start one way and all of a sudden it just spirals into something else.
Yeah.
It's just more of a calling than anything. Is that how it feels?
Yeah. And the people that have joined us and that are helping us, they all see the same thing that we do, that if nobody's doing this, if we lost all these thousands of documents that are strewn across the border, it would take the government 10 times as long to find these people. But now we have stuff to go off of.
Well, whether the government and you work together or whether they pay you and stop paying people that shouldn't be doing a job, right? That would be also great because you have the right, you have the right reason for doing it and integrity for it. So I hope that all goes that way.
I hope so, especially for our children.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for listening to the Pretty Intense podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like what you heard today and you want to hear more, please click on the subscribe button.